off. These you can reuse until they fall apart. I mean, don't reuse them that long. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you can reuse these over and over and over again. This part is a one and done. Do not reuse these. Once that seal is broken, that seal is broken. You cannot reseal. So when you're canning, as soon as you open up your jar, and I didn't bring any with me today, but you can go to Walmart and you can get plastic ones. They're white plastic and they're made for your canning jars. So if you're making jelly and it's going in the refrigerator, once you open it, go ahead and put your plastic one on. I want to say 12 of them, less than $3. I wait until I see them on clearance and I just grab up a whole bunch of them. But you can get them in regular and wide mouth. So like today you're doing a wide mouth, and then just screw that plastic one on. Throw this part in the trash, so you're not thinking next year going, did I can with this one or did I not can with this one? You don't even have to think about it. Just toss it in the trash. But these, I just string mine up because I have like metal shelving in my room. I just use a string or a bungee cord and go from one end to the other, and I just string these on. So then all of my lids are in the same spot on my ring side. So once that 24 hours is over, you're gonna take this off, string it back on your line. You would have this sealed on. Get you some hot soapy water, wash it all over, just to make sure, put it on your shelf. You can leave it like that for a year. Some places will say you can and it'll stay, indefinitely.
No, they don't.
It can stay a little longer than a year, but you're going to start noticing the flavor difference and the taste difference. And with pickled okra, it's not going to be pickled. It's going to be mushy pickle. It's not going to be that crispy pickle you want.
Do you ever turn the jars upside down?
I've never done that before, and I've never canned in the oven either. You know how some people oven can? Don't do it. Just don't do it. Like I was telling this gentleman here, go on Facebook. I definitely belong to a lot of Facebook canning groups, but if they say Rebel or Not Your Mama's Canning, stay away from it. Stay away, because more than likely they just came up with something out of their head, and it's not been certified by the USDA. So that's why I try my best to stick to what's in the canning books. And go to the library first. Use your library. Like, look up a canning book. Like, oh, I really like that one. If your library doesn't have it, see if they'll do it interlibrary loan. Like, check that book out first before you buy it. Every single one of my books, I looked at them all at the library first, because I was like, well, I spend money on something I'm never going to can. And that's why I have so many marks in all my books, because I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I want to can. But there's no sense in wasting money on something and you're never going to use that book for anything.
I don't remember whether or not you told us what I know you're from Langston, but what your credentials are. Keisha, yeah.
So technically, I'm an urban ag tech, but I guess I'm going over to FCS. Like, I'll be a split. I'll be half FC, because they found out I like to can and process stuff. So I guess I'll be a split, half FCS, half urban ag tech.
What's FCS?
Like food preservation, basically.
Okay.
Is what I'll be over.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be on that side too.
So last year, Keisha came to us. We were blessed, and she did a whole class on dehydration, and she had so many different varieties of spices that were just incredible. I mean, incredible.
Well, and what I meant to bring, because I ran out from last year I brought dehydrated pumpkin. So I take pie pumpkins, the little pie pumpkins that you see, and I'm not a huge pumpkin pie eater. I'm definitely more of a sweet potato pie eater than I am pumpkin. You can do the same thing with sweet potatoes if you want to, but I cut the pumpkin pie in half, scoop out all the seeds, stick it in my Instant Pot with some water, and basically pressure can it until it's soft. So I think it takes me like 30 minutes, depends on the size of the pumpkin, of course. Once it's all soft, I take all the insides out, spread it like on an even layer in my dehydrator again. Once that's all dehydrated, completely dry, I crumble it all up, stick it in my blender. And I will say on the blenders, get a good blender. If you're gonna really be dehydrating, that's where you wanna spend your money at. I'm definitely cheap when it comes to a lot of stuff, but I love my Vitamix blender. But I have to say, then my grandbaby came along, so we have a 2-year-old grandbaby, and she had a baby bullet that's basically like a bullet, but it's for baby food. Well, I couldn't find one of my pieces in my Vitamix one day, and I happened to be on FaceTime with my daughter, and she's like, Mom, just use that baby bullet that's in your room. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that'll work. It works great. Like, I was just going to take it to the thrift store and donate it, and I was just like, what? So if you're doing small things, that works great. So back to the pie pumpkin. So dehydrate it all up. Once it's crispy, break it all up, stick it in the Vitamix. I had one whole pie pumpkin, and it fit in a half pint jar with room left over. So then when I get ready to rehydrate it, it depends on what I'm making. So my son loves snickerdoodle cookies. He lives in Alaska, so when I get ready to send him care packages in this fall, I take a little bit of that pumpkin, sprinkle it on my dough mix it all in there together. Now I have pumpkin snickerdoodle cookies. Oh, delicious. If I want to make a pie, my son-in-law loves pumpkin pies. I'm like, I don't know where you came from. He's from Florida. I was like, I don't know. I don't really make pumpkin pies. So I had to find a recipe. I just rehydrate it with water to the consistency what canned pumpkin would be like. I make him a pumpkin pie. He doesn't even know. He swears it's the best pumpkin pie he's ever had. I'm just like, oh, okay, if you say so, you know. But he loves it, so that's what I do.
What brand dehydrator do you use?
So, if I had all the money in the world, I would get an Excalibur dehydrator. I don't have all the money in the world. I started out with a $5 thrift store dehydrator, and I used that bad boy until I burnt the motor out. So for years. Then I stepped my game up to a $20 garage sale dehydrator, and I use that one, and actually that one still works. It's in the garage if I need a spare. I don't know what brand mine is now. It's off of Amazon, and my son bought it for me. Because my kids just know she wants something to do with candy. So they just asked me, I'm like, oh, I need a dehydrator, and I got one. It has 5 trays in it, but it does a lot. So, like if you were ever, the Excalibur though, I do know has a bread proof on it. So like you can stick your bread dough in it, in a bowl, and it will proof your bread.
Wow.
They're high. I'm not gonna lie. They're an expense. They're like a car payment with your insurance put onto it. It's not a cheap investment, but it will last you for a very long time. So if this is something you think I'm gonna do this long term, go ahead and spend the money, but not at first.
Right.
Start out with something inexpensive to see if you even like it first. Because just because you're thinking, I need to do this because we should be doing this, well, you might start doing it and hate it.
Right.
You know, so that's why you should start out maybe a little more inexpensively and then put it on Facebook Marketplace and sell it.
Okay, so your spices, are those recipes from a book, or did you just
I kind of make them up.
Yeah.
This one was completely on what was growing in my backyard. And I was just like, I don't want to lose it. I will tell you, with any kind of herbs you use though, the oil is inside. So the rosemary, you know, you got to snap that rosemary open to get that smell, that true smell. So once you do something like that, the more you shake it, the more of that oil that's going onto your kosher salt. So as you notice, I use the large salt, the kosher salt, instead of like a fine table salt. That's because I want that oil all wrapped around it.
Okay, so rosemary, it was stemming like this. You're talking about that
That
stem?
little stem, I snap it. I try my best to snap all of them because that's where all your oil's at.
Gotcha.
And then that oil goes onto your salt or whatever you're dehydrating. My new thing is smoking. So when we lived in Alaska, we learned how to catch the salmon in the ocean, put the salmon in the canner, and can it right there, you know, in Valdez. I never was really that brave. Like, we did it, me and the kids, because we liked to, but it wasn't truly my thing. I like more of smoking, because I like that smoky flavor. So we would usually catch the salmon, fillet it, put it in the smoker, and smoke it. I like it that way. That's my jam, to do it that way. Well, bacon. If you buy bacon at the store, you have realized here lately that bacon is crazy high. Like, if I can find bacon under $5.99, I'm trying to stockpile. Because I'm just like, bacon is expensive. So my daughter was like, hey mom, you know if you get pork belly at the store, it's really cheap. And you can make your homemade bacon out of it. Because that's all bacon is pork belly. And I was like, what? I never thought about that. So I get to shop because my husband's retired military. We shop at the commissary a lot. But I have seen this at other stores before. But we don't have the same stores y'all have.
Right.
You know, so I don't know if you can find it. But you can always ask the meat department. So we get a pork belly that's usually about this long, about this wide. So the size of a bacon, you know, because that's how big it's going to be. They cut it in thirds for me. Usually cost me like $20 for that piece of pork belly. I make 3 different flavors of bacon from that. So I have some marinades, a wet marinade that only takes 3 days. Every day you have to flip it. Just keep on flipping it. I do dry rubs on mine sometimes if I want like a sweet or spicy. That one usually takes 7 days. Same way in the refrigerator. You just keep on flipping it every day for 7 days. So I flip it every morning when I wake up. After either day 3 if I'm doing a wet or day 7 if I'm doing a dry, I put it in our smoker. Takes me like maybe 2 to 3 hours to smoke it because you're not cooking it. You're just smoking in that flavor. And we try different wood chips, stuff like that. Then I take it off the smoker, let it completely cool down, slice it up the thickness that we want it because we do have a meat slicer. But if you don't worry about it. Remember, I lived in Alaska. You had to have stuff. Like, you had to have it. So if not, just get a really sharp knife, slice it the way you like it. I'm not a thick cut person. My dad is, so I cut some thin, I cut some thick. Then I wrap it up in butcher paper, like freezer paper. I wrap up my 1 pound sections, because that's what I would get at the store anyway, and I weigh it. You know, I got a scale. And then go ahead, put it in a vacuum sealer bag, and I vacuum seal those 1 pound bags. So that way we tried, I think we've tried like 8 different varieties, but it's whatever you think of. YouTube is your best friend. Look up what you want and just put it in YouTube and listen to the recipes. Once again, if it sounds really outrageous, just don't do it. And I meant to bring, and I know I didn't, pickled jalapenos, and so they call it cowboy candy. Right. I don't know if you've heard of that before. I don't care how much you tweak that recipe, you're always going to get more brine than you are jalapenos. Just never fails. I used to just throw, I'm not going to lie, used to throw that brine right on down the sink because I'm like, okay, what am I going to use with it? But I always thought, this is a waste. Like, I should be saving this for something. I just don't know what yet. So I was watching a YouTube video from these people in Alaska. They were making cowboy candy, and they were like, oh, if you have leftover brine, and I'm like, finally, somebody is telling me what to do with this leftover brine. They take salmon patties, which of course, there's this fresh caught salmon. We don't get that luxury here anymore. But they get fresh cut salmon that they just caught. They slice it up. They put that brine on it. They stick it in the smoker. They smoke it. It's like salmon jerky. And it's so stinking good. Then another guy I watched, he uses it for making his bacon. It just gives it a sweet and spicy way, taste of your bacon. So some stuff you can keep, and you can use your brine again, but go ahead and can that brine. Even though there's no jalapenos in that jar, go ahead and can it because then it's shelf stable.
Right.
So it will still last you for that year while you're sitting there going, what can I do with this brine? Another lady took her green tomatoes because she was in Michigan. It was getting ready to get cold. She was like, what can I do with these green tomatoes? Instead of doing fried green tomatoes, but she wanted to preserve them. She canned them in the cowboy candy brine. She said they were delicious. I bet they are. I don't know, but you gotta have a pressure canner for that. And mine's sitting on the shelf because I'm probably never gonna use it. So, but I wonder if I just had like 3 tomatoes and a half pint jar of brine, I could always make them to where they're refrigerator pickles or refrigerated tomatoes. I just have to use them up within a month.
You can also wrap that in newspaper, the green ones, and put it in the closet.
Yeah,
By
or under your bed.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And
my
by
grandma's-
Thanksgiving, you have right to make it.
Yeah. Because my grandma used to do that to
Yeah,
pears
around
too.
we used to do that.
When the pears were hard, she would stick them,
Yeah.
wrap them all up in paper, stick them under the bed, and by Thanksgiving we would have fresh pears. Yeah, they were soft and good
Yeah.
to eat. 2 people at a time to the back. So want to start with 2 people.
Okay, Yossi needs to be one of the first because she has to leave.
Okay,
And
so
William,
we'll do-
No,
and-
I'm gonna stay.
You gonna stay?
Stay already.
oh, he already left. Okay.
You want to do those 2?
Yeah, William was
Okay.
the first to arrive.
Okay. And I have 3 canning books up front if anybody wants to look at the canning books I have. Those are my 3 favorite. So you want to come on back with yours and you want your okra.
Oh. I guess
Bring your okra, your garlic, and your pepper. Yeah, I want you.
They're not pizza, they're sandwiches.
what do we do?
The rest of you, we have sandwiches, chips, pickles, and drinks.
I'll go
You
up
know what I think?
my sandwich.
Okay, so I have you stand right here. And go ahead and get all your other ingredients too. And I'll have you stand over here. Sit them over here. And then go ahead and grab your other ingredients too. Always start. So I will say this as I'm walking and talking at the same time. Never start your candy. Never pack a hot jar with cold product. So
You gotta let that go.
you always want to heat up before you stick it in your jar. No, if you're gonna make liquid when you go in there. You never put a cold liquid in a hot jar. Yeah. So make sure it's hot. Make sure it's hot when it goes into the hot jar. Otherwise, when it's in that boiling water, it's going to explode. Okay.
No, I'm good right now.
So we're gonna do 2 at a time.
Appreciate it, salad.
So what I'm gonna have y'all do. Take care. Yeah, they're not expensive. Mine are a little heavier duty, but still don't cost that much. Be very careful. Always boil your water. You know what? No. Let's finish this first. 1 year. That's what I always tell myself. Some people will definitely go further than that. I'm not happy to do that.
Everybody else?
But I feel like the starch is his favorite flavor after you. Okay, so I want your raw. This is gonna be your So
I have to wait for Earl to get up.
water, your vinegar, your pickling salt, and your
When I sit down,
Okay.
I got your paper towel already, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miss Cotton, do you have some big spoons? Big spoons?
Yes.
We're gonna grab one jar at a time, four jars.
We got it. Yeah, they get down here. They
But I like to see one out. Then you're gonna pack these as tight as you can with okra. But you don't wanna hit this line. So you want to keep it under that line. Ends down. And you might have to alternate them, but you want to get them packed in there. Because if we don't get them packed too tight, they'll float on us. So you don't want them to float. Try to correct. Don't go above this line. Try to go a little under that line. And then one little clove of garlic in each jar. It can be anywhere you want it to be. And then you'll put like how many peppers you want in each jar. You can. So if you cut the peppers, that's just going to give you more flavor quicker. Basically, is what it's going to do. Otherwise, the longer it takes to break down. No.
So do they want to get all simple farmers?
It doesn't really last longer. Basically, what you're doing is because the acidity in the food is safer to pressure can it than it is to not pressure can it. You need that long term. Usually, if you pressure can, like these will go, it says on there for 15 minutes. So because of altitude, you need to go 2 minutes. Yeah. Every book I do, I always add 5 minutes to it. Always. So then, with doing it that way, you just know that it's safe. So that's why if you hear of anybody ever getting botulism, you know they always say, "Oh, that hasn't been around for years." I lived in Alaska for 11 years. Every year it was somebody that got botulism. So it's usually because it was incorrectly pressure canned. It was not pressure canned long enough. So it's like the flu, but a really, really bad flu. And usually when people get it, they die from it. Like yeah, it's bad. We're actually gonna take some of yours out. They're too tall.
Now, you go.
Second layer, once you get small.
So go this way now.
You told me. Yeah.
You bring the work to I'll get you fish.
I know that's right. Now.
We're camped out right in front right now.
Rock.
Where's that Rocky?
Rocky Town.
Where's that?
690 road straight out.
Okay. Do it like a pond?
Sometimes it's just got me packed. Alternate sides.
You have to track your.
And I feel like I get a few.
Yeah, what make you come?
Y'all like it?
I know who you are now.
Some of the, they're good.
They said.
That 6 9 to take you all the way up to you follow one.
Well, 690 road, take the straight out.
How long you been back that way?
How often do y'all go out?
Well, this year we've only been out 3 times. This is the third time.
What type of fish are you catching? Good eating.
Perch.
Yeah.
Perch.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Huh?
Perch is good. You can eat the bone.
Well, if you get a red ear, you ever had a red ear? Look at this. The small hamlets, that's just bait.
I love little baby.
Okay. What about jugs? Right.
We used to be throwing like one.
Uh-huh.
In fact, our boys threw up.
I heard that. I know that's right.
And you ain't got time to do all this crap, thank you.
I'll show you, Mom.
They seen it when they came.
So it's only me and my husband.
Yeah. I just got this guy.
But our kids are grown.
There's nothing wrong with it. Just sit
Um,
down.
I have two, and he has two.
Yeah.
Girls are the same age and the boys are the same age. So his kids don't
One of different boats, so we can
do
have one.
but my kids
Yeah, a lot of people
love
like
it.
it.
So our son, my son lives in Alaska. And so we send him stuff all the time, and even, because that's what my husband has duty station. So, our two grew up there, basically. And so when our daughter was in college in Alaska, she said, Mom, mushrooms are crazy expensive. She's like, I can't afford this. So I started buying mushrooms in big containers from the grocery store. But our grocery store marks the first thing in the morning. So I go early in the morning and I'll buy big containers of mushrooms. Chris, I live in Memphis. I live in Okra. So I would dehydrate them. So then it was no weight for her to dehydrated. And then I would ship them to her. She would stick them in cold and then put them in her spaghetti or whatever she wanted. She was a vegetarian at the time. So it worked perfect for her, but then she started keeping the blood from the water. And she turned that into like part of her broth, like if she was eating broth. So she would just save that in jars in the refrigerator. So my son, last year, he learned to make blueberry lemon cinnamon. And he called me, he said, Mom, I've been teaching for a month now, and they do not have any blueberries or lemons. He was like, how am I going to make these if I can't get it? So I bought a big bag of lemons from Sam's Club. I zested them off, zested the dehydrator, dried that out. Then I took off the juice from the lemons and put that into the cartons, the ice cube trays from the set. Just measured out that I knew it was 2 tablespoons. And we kept that and we sent off the dehydrated pills to my son. The same thing with the blueberries. Fresh blueberries, no, frozen blueberries from Sam's Club. Thawed them out, stuck them in the dehydrator, and then shipped them.
I'm ready to get
And then he just rehydrates what he needs.
right.
It really preserves your food.
Yeah, them that only one.
Just let it dry in the sun.
Uh-huh.
I've been on that.
That's what my grandma used to do.
Well,
I don't have any dry, that's 100%.
you better come to the house.
And I started out with
And fish on that long? No.
a cheap meat. No, actually, the first one I started out was a $5 one from a garage sale. I use that until no anymore. And then I upgraded to $20. And now I honestly don't know how much one is I got Amazon. But yeah, that's my
Like 7 years old. So fast, she has to get very.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah. I do too, but you know.
So now,
When they got his life,
yours is
A lifetime license. I think, what, 2 days ago?
Well, Dylan has a lifetime license, so you got that on birthday gift.
what?
yes.
Dylan, I need to change my language. My face to take your life. That's awesome.
Because some people just use it for a soup pot. So when you want the canning, you have to go over to the canning aisle. Now, if you were just canning, like say you're canning jelly or something, and it was a small batch, inch over your water, be an inch over your jar. So then you make sure it's again. And once it starts boiling, you never lift that lid back up until it is finished. Because if you lift that lid up, you start all over again. Just automatically start counting all over again. Yeah. It does make a difference. I just never
It's not on. That's why I smell the prophet. I said, why is it
I've always known it was vinegar.
Yeah, that's all I can
And so it used to be that Kenny recommended that you wash your lids, then boil your lids.
It works so much.
Yes, that's how I
I'm looking at her. I look like she does.
And you know what? Start out with getting what's from the
You
right.
like that too?
And get those. See what you like. That's why I get my good stuff. And not put them on your
Oh, that's why you were looking at her like doing that.
Because you know, some stuff you're like, I'll never make it. Okay, so you want to put your liquid in, and you want to take your liquid, like in between. Yep. In between this line and this line. We'll see how much you got.
This way, you sit on the counter.
No, no. Wait, I got it.
Now, she's doing the right thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you definitely want to keep it thin because I don't want you to burn your hands. It's still not warm yet? And it is something called pickle crisp that you can buy. And you can get that from Walmart. Because some people like theirs to be crunchy. And that will keep them crunchy. It keeps your product crunchy. So if you were making pickles,
Hot mouth.
Boy.
Yo, what is this?
You're dangerous.
They're both dangerous.
So, how do you pick him up? And how long is that?
First, they pick you up and you threw it.
so after you can for the 20 minutes, you take them out
Throw it
of
back.
your jar. If I was
Fill
at
up by me.
I never put
And I
my
ran up and I grabbed it.
hot jar on a hot surface, you know, on a wet surface. So we're gonna line everything and put them in like that way.
Y'all was like, let's get rid of it.
We're gonna set the hot jars. If I was at home, I would not touch my jars for 24 hours. They would sit on the counter for 24 hours and never under an air vent, if possible. If you have an air vent right where your island is or right where your counters is, then cover them with a towel on top. And let them after that 24 hours, I take like this part off. Because you want to hear that pop. You should hear that pop right after you take them out. But then I take this band off. I wash them with hot soap water, the whole jar. And then I put them on my shelf. And you never stick them on top of another jar. Because that will give you a false seal. So I always seal mine the best I can. So when I'm making mine, and I'm like, crap, I don't really have room for 12 jars of pickles right now. I start giving stuff away. And then I'm like, okay, now I got room again for 12 jars of pickles. Or my husband will come home from work. I'm like, you know what? Why is the kitchen full of jars? I'm making room. It's okay. I got this. So for you to eat it, so you can eat them right away. The longer they set them on pickle, you're gonna have it, the flavors in there.
Yeah.
Right. So go ahead and put some more in that one.
What's it gonna
He's
be?
like,
You can tell we're gonna have some floating.
you got what?
Xbox.
Okay.
That's good, that's my
Keep on gonna have to
My
go
grandson
back.
will be turning
I
15.
did see you.
Daddy just had him for that Xbox. You don't learn with that. He be online, he does drawings like, what's the name of that little, character?
So this is
With the blue and the red.
So you just wanna
Sign
go around your edges.
My grandson draws
Each one.
cartoon people.
And you're basically
He
getting
got,
out any
he
pockets
got
that
a
you
lot
want.
of people following him on,
So like this one, we can tell it's gonna need.
he's 15. Well, he'll be 15 on the 21st.
But yeah, debubble that around, and that will help you kind of miss those pockets. Pulling in. Okay. In business. So if you were making jelly, you would take a paper towel, wet it in white vinegar. It will wipe all your rings before you put your jar lids on.
Why is this?
This one is not as sticky because jelly is so sticky. It's very sticky. So this one we're just going to wipe around, and that's just so we have the correct seal on everything. Oh, really? So you do a freezer jelly? Like a refrigerator jelly?
But he wants to so long.
Can it? It'll stay longer.
And I'm afraid to give it away to somebody because what if he gets
And then, you know, sometimes you'll make jelly and it won't set it won't shake, right? So it's more like a syrup. Go ahead and can it. It's just turned into syrup. And some, unfortunately, some fruits will never, ever jelly.
Whenever I make strawberry, it's really becoming like a preserve, like a
Yeah.
still a strawberry in that particular.
And like bananas are really high in pectin, so you don't have to add any pectin. I do a strawberry banana jam.
So you just gotta, you say drip, and then you make this. Let it go.
Is yours blue?
My boat, I have, rods on the river of my boat. So, I'll use like 4 rods.
Fingertip tight. Don't go too tight.
Then,
Never go too tight because that's how. I have never, knock on wood, had that happen. But it definitely can happen.
Like Brandon, but.
It depends on, you know, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So I usually try to get the ones that's, 4 by 6 by 4.
So the average person, you know, when things are hot, touch there. I don't know, I don't think I have any sauce left anymore. Like, I just so much pasta. I just. Do you have a marker? First row. First row.
Wrap it up.
And what's your
Woo, that's a perfect day. Man. That picture is like, whoa.
She don't like coffee.
Great.
So normally I would tell you to take the time and with the back.
That's good.
No, but I want to get them put back in now so that they're getting, you know, we don't want them to a shock. Because that's like I was that person that watched probably 100 YouTube videos, literally. I went to probably 5 or 6 classes before I ever tried to piano on my own.
Really?
I was terrified.
I watched probably half that many, and I'm the same way. I've got all started, but I'm still kind of hesitant
Yeah,
about
you
doing
just
it.
don't want to mess with you. Don't want to make it nice.
My main thing
Yeah,
was
that's the key.
Yeah.
altitude thing. I wasn't sure about how long.
Oh my God.
I always know that when you're never gonna move.
She getting ready to look like, she's been free from that black hair.
You know, when I used to know, I had it for the last 5 years. I just remember when I lived in Alaska, I ran 5 minutes, and I probably went down 5 minutes. But I was cold. I was cold. Okay, so with yours, we're gonna go ahead and wipe right your toes.
Yeah, but I always ask you this,
The coldest we ever saw
they
was
live
-8, and that was with the wind.
She been working, she been free.
Okay. So then,
Don't be mad at her, I'm gonna tell you what to do.
fingertip tight, so don't push too tight. Go ahead and well, no, leave yours on. We'll turn yours off.
Your grandkids.
Come on.
They can put the can back for you. After that one. And mine.
And then my son, passion. It is the best thing for kids. Because I can take it. I use it. But you know, if I'm worried about something too tight, I can just hit it with my daughter 2 taps and I can so yours don't have to be.
Tango used to work for.
Really going through it, fixing everything.
So you can.
Well, I haven't seen Taylor. I don't know if she's still testing. I haven't seen her in a long time, but the other 2 girls, they
Now, we got to put this water all the way back to the house. I'm taking some of this water out. Well, 1 to 2 inches. Only reason I'm taking water out is so much water. I like the top.
I was
I like to do a couple of inches, just to be on the safe side. But once again, like I said, the more covered they are, the more quantity they want.
But you know, with the minor color.
And I've got so much stuff. I can just walk by and like, oh, it's cool. I know.
That's like what my grandma said. I know it's done or something.
Yeah, I'm like, I can hear it. It's cannon. And then I'm just, oh, let me set my timer to and then I go wrong. So my mom's always like, what if you were off by a few minutes?
That's why God brought
It
me.
needs to be can anyway, so it's fine. Each of the pots, they're going to add in their salt, their dill seed, their water, and their vinegar.
Okay.
I had to look at the
We're
jars.
gonna put all of this stuff in there.
One to put one and one do the other.
Oh, I heard a pop.
You heard a ping?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Garlic and peppers, not yet.
no.
Those are going to go in each of your jars.
Okay, this one's in the front.
And do we stir it or is it just?
You're going to just stir it until everything dissolves. And then once everything dissolves, you're just going to bring it up to a boil. And I'm using this spoon. So you stir it.
You need two?
You can stir hers up and eat.
Oh, you can just go ahead and get it.
I'll just stir yours. Why not? Why not this?
Oh. We'll get you taken care of. Okay. Have your own.
She gave me a spoon, but she got
Oh,
my
hey, I thought she was kidding. Not kidding.
You're ahead of the game. So then once it starts boiling, we'll take out your 4 jars, each of you, so total 8 jars. Then you'll pack them in and add your okra, add your garlic and your peppers.
Okay, so these,
This doesn't have to be stirred all the time.
Nope. Just until, once it's dissolved, once it comes to a boil, we're good to go.
okay, and so those are hot already? Those jars over there?
Yes.
Okay,
I went ahead and kept the lid on them.
gotcha.
Turn them off, so they're actually still very hot.
Good.
So then when it comes to your rings and your tops now, we'll just put some hot water back in here. Ooh. Fill 'em up in here.
Yes.
Okay, so just remember to catch your okra at the very bottom and leave a little bit of the tip. That's what we're gonna do, all 3.5 pounds of your okra. And then with zucchini, just shred it and then you have it for later on at another occasion. So once you all get that done, let me go grab my books real quick. And I'll pass them.
Like your peppers, different kind of peppers, you can eat them at pretty much any stage, but it's nice to kind of let them stay out there and go along and they change colors.
Yeah, I'm turning red,
Makes
yeah,
them
right.
nice. Yeah, they get red, different colors, and they get red and stuff.
Right.
My wife, that's why I got so many different tomatoes. She has some kind of issue called pickled.
Like that.
Whenever they, like, I gotta get these off at the grasshoppers and mess with them, this and that. So we never,
That's right.
had on to get the right peppers and the right tomatoes.
Now,
If you leave your peppers out there longer, do they get hotter?
Some varieties will. Not all varieties.
Okay.
But some varieties will get hot.
Because my husband likes hot, so he likes hot.
I guess that's for candy.
They have some hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't leave them out there forever.
Well, if it's jalapeno,
I don't even know, because I don't like hot peppers.
because there's different kinds, there's a tam.
Are they wrinkled?
They're not the, they're just,
Because they could be like a habanero, they could be a scorpion. It's like there's probably 500 varieties of peppers. So there's a lot of peppers out there.
well, all I do is sweet banana peppers together.
Okay.
There's
Well,
also different heat
ranges.
There is.
Yeah, that's what.
It's
that's
the
what I thought.
Scoville,
Yeah.
the Scoville range. So they can go from so many different ranges of peppers. And then there's a pepper called, it's like a 5-pepper mix. Have y'all ever seen those grown? So the color tells you the heat level. So when you first grow them, you'll get yellow, I think. Yellow's probably the mildest. Then it goes to, no, green is the mildest. Then it goes to yellow. Then it goes to purple, red, and another color. But it's 5 peppers.
Time that got so hot.
Yeah.
Because when we picked them when they were green, they weren't that
Nope.
good yet.
But as the color goes on, it's a hotter pepper. So that's called a 5-pepper plant. So this is jalapeno pepper, and they were all yellow jalapenos. And so I made hot sauce out of it. And then I added a half of a habanero pepper. And probably not even a half, and I de-seeded it and deveined it. Because your peppers are hot because of the seeds and the veins. So when I made this hot sauce, it makes, after you go ahead and put it in your blender, after you've cooked the peppers and the onions together, it makes, when you get ready to strain it off, you kind of have like, how do I want to explain it to where it sounds nice? Because I want to say it kind of looks like scum or something. But it's what's left over from your peel and your seeds, basically. So that, everybody's like, oh, I'm just going to throw that away. Well, don't throw it away. I dehydrate mine, and then once it dehydrates and it's completely dry, I grind it up. So then it turns into a hot pepper. So I'll add it to like pepper, I'll add it to salt, to different herbs and stuff, and then we sprinkle it on like popcorn and different things like that. And I usually give it away because I don't like hot peppers. But this hot sauce, I want to say it was only like 5 ingredients. It was really easy to make. Then this is a savory salt blend. So I'll pass this around if everybody wants to smell it. I start out with kosher salt, and then I just add basically the herbs that I have grown in my garden. I dry all them in the dehydrator, or I let them sit out and dry, and then I just add those all to it, and I grind it all up again in the Vitamix. And this is what I end up with. So I put it on everything. I do one that's like dehydrated orange peel, I think thyme, rosemary, and kosher salt. So with that one, I like to put on like my Thanksgiving turkey, Christmas turkey, whatever you're making. I mix it with butter and let that butter freeze, and then I cut it up and I put it right under the skin of the bird, and then when it melts down, it seasons it up too. So it's a lot of different ways. Like if you got herbs growing right now in your garden, just dehydrate them or dry them out and then use them throughout the year. So you got a lot of options to do with your stuff growing. I try to use everything I can. So even if I'm making like apple butter and all I need is the apple, well the peel I go ahead and keep until I have enough peel, and I make that into apple peel jelly. So you can do everything, like you never have to waste anything that you're growing. Y'all like, well, I guess I can kind of tell when y'all are. 3.5 pounds of okra is a lot of okra.
Yes. Anybody need a hand?
I wouldn't tell you no.
Oh, you can stand up. Let me tell you, sitting down and cutting is slower than standing up and cutting. So if you stood up and cut, you can cut a little bit faster. And nobody stood up. Okay.
Does anybody already can?
No.
What?
I wish I knew how.
Do any of you can now? You'll know by the end of the day. Today.
I told them, it didn't say it, but my mother taught me as a young girl. So when I came out the country and came to the city, I just threw everything back.
See, I canned with my grandmother, like you, both my grandmas when I was young, and I was just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Then when I got older, I was like, but I need to do this. So now I try to can as much as I possibly can. I usually bring a jar with me, so I'll wait until Walmart has the big jars, I call them the funeral jars of vegetables, or church jars, the big containers. I wait until they put those on clearance every year. And the other day, they just had green beans on clearance. Those I put them all, I strain it out. Don't throw away your juice because you can make broth with that juice. So go ahead and keep the juice that it comes in. Then I dehydrate all of them. So you know how heavy that can is. Isn't it like 5 pounds,
Right,
4
right,
pounds, as
right.
big as it is? When you finish, it will go in like less than 2-pint jar.
So you're saying that you get the can?
I get the big can of green beans or corn, sometimes mixed vegetables. If I'm doing mixed vegetables, I usually get the big bag from like Sam's Club.
And you fry all of that out?
I dehydrate it.
Uh-huh.
Like even my stove now has a dehydrator on it, but I feel like this is gonna take too long and use up a lot of gas. So I have a dehydrator that I plug in, and I just spread them out on the trays of all my dehydrators, and I dehydrate it. And then people were like, okay, well now what are you gonna do with it? So then all winter long, when I'm making stews and soups, I just sprinkle some in instead of opening up a jar.
That's smart.
And then it just rehydrates. They all rehydrate really quick. Garlic, like we have all this garlic left over. I think, don't we have some garlic left over?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that garlic that's left over, what I would do is get a garlic, it was one up here.
I took it outside.
That's okay. A garlic crusher, I'm sure y'all have all seen it. The handheld, you put the garlic in and crush it. Then I get ice cube trays that have a lid on it. I put the garlic in each one of the ice cube trays, so I try to keep it about 4 cloves, because then I can remember that does 4 cloves. I put olive oil just to cover the top. So then when I'm like frying a steak, I throw that in there. It already has the olive oil in it, and it has the seasoning of the garlic.
Well, Lord Jesus.
But I freeze it.
Man.
I freeze it in the ice cube trays, then I pop them out and put them in a Ziploc bag and put them back in the freezer. But I only use the ice cube tray with a cover because I don't want my whole freezer smelling like garbage.
Right.
So that's why I do that. And then the other day I was actually at a thrift store and they had a little container and it was for baby food, to make homemade baby food, but it had a lid on it. So 25 cents, I was able to do that. I put my 4 cloves of crushed garlic in there, put the olive oil on top of it, stuck it in the freezer, popped them out. So the same way, like, say you make, it's just 2 of you in the house, and you make a big pot of soup, and you're like, we're never gonna eat all this soup, what are we gonna do with it now? Get some, like, if this is a serving size for you, maybe a little bit bigger container, go ahead and put your soup in there that you have left over, freeze it, pop it out, put it in a Ziploc bag, then whenever you want soup, take one out the night before, stick it in the refrigerator, and you got your soup left over.
That's how I do a lot of beans and
Yeah.
other things like that.
And then you're not wasting anything.
And you're not in the kitchen cooking all the time.
Exactly.
And you don't have to plastic containers break in the freezer.
Right.
Yeah, so that way if you stick it all in a Ziploc bag, you know exactly what size it is. You already know that's about how much you eat anyway, and then you're saving it that way. So I'm trying to think of how else I preserve. I do a lot of canning. I do a lot of dehydrating.
So what things do you can? Just name some things.
So I only water bath can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a pressure canner because yes, I am still terrified from back in the day when people said they was doing some chitlins and they blew up in the house. Like I know, like, and I use my Instant Pot all the time, and I love it, and I know it's not gonna blow up, but it's something about me and a pressure canner that those memories are instilled in my mind that I cannot do. Like, so I just don't pressure can. So anything that would be pressure can, so like spaghetti sauce, if you were making it, truly it needs to be pressure canned because of the acidity in it, the acid. So with that, yeah, so that's why I dehydrate my green beans.
That's crazy. I never heard of anyone blowing up from that.
Yeah.
That's why my mother didn't tell us that, because she wanted us to stay where we were.
Yes. They will blow, the old school ones will blow up.
That's what we had.
So anything.
She had to go to the burn center because it blew up in her face.
Oh,
See?
wow.
That's why I don't mess with pressure canners. So I only hot water bath can. But like Micah said, you need to, if you were doing green beans, you need to put those in a pressure canner.
Gotcha.
So that's why I dehydrate my green beans. So if I was doing a spaghetti sauce, I'm gonna freeze that spaghetti sauce
Gotcha.
instead of putting it in a pressure canner.
That's what we do.
They should be in a pressure canner. Hot water bath, you're okay. I'm chicken to do that. I won't do that. So I even do my So I can them in quart jars. So bigger than what we have today. That's exactly enough for a deep dish pie crust. And that's how I do it.
Girl,
So I have a room in my house that started out as the office and now is my food storage room. And I rotate my stuff around. I make sure I mark on there that this was made in 2022, 2021. So I rotate my stuff around. And then I have a whole nother shelf. It's probably about half this size, top to bottom, is all my canning supplies. So I know, and everybody in the house knows, don't touch the canning supplies unless you know what you're doing.
So Miss Keisha, do you have a card?
I do, actually.
Can I have one?
Yes, for sure. I'll pass it out to everybody before we leave.
This is the size that makes a deep dish?
Yes. So this will do a deep dish. And then this is the garlic press. Yes. So this is exactly what you need to do a pie, to do a deep dish pie. And so I heard the other day, I have not tried this yet, so I don't know. But a lady, for some reason she didn't want a can, I really don't know. I saw it on YouTube, but I did think it was a good idea. She goes ahead and makes her pie filling and goes ahead and puts it in a jar, but instead of canning it, she pours it directly into a pie pan, freezes it while it's lined in parchment paper, freezes it, then pops it out, sticks it in a gallon Ziploc bag, and vacuum seals it because it's frozen. Then she sticks that on a shelf, and so they're stacked, you know, like you would stack a pizza box or something. So she knows automatically to pull out that peach pie filling, stick it in her pie crust, and when it defrosts, she sticks it in the oven. I have not tried it yet, but I'm going to. Because she said that way she doesn't miss her pie plate because she still has it. She just uses it for the form, sticks it in the freezer. Once it's frozen, takes it out, vacuum seals it, and then puts her pie pan